everyone. Welcome to today's Jewish Gen Talk with Gary Regev and Karen Franklin. So glad that you're here. We'll get started in a minute. As we always do, please post in the chat where you are logging in from. This program is focused on Israel. We have many people registered who are in Israel and from around the world. So please post a message in the chat and let us know where you are from. We have Rebecca in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Jody. She says hi to Gary from Indiana. Sarah Weil in Jerusalem, Alana Green in Victoria, British Columbia, Carol Hoffman in Tel Aviv, Rich Mintz from Long Island, Linda in Central Missouri, Susan Atlas in New York City, David in Massachusetts, Bonnie Burns from Boynton Beach, formerly of Long Island, Freda is in Petaluma, California.
Close enough.
David is in Seattle. Elona Avinezer, hello from Jerusalem. Thank you for joining us today.
From Tennessee.
Jeremy and Victoria Fish from Tennessee. Miriam Morris in Rockland County, New York. For everybody who's logging in, please post a message in the chat where you are from. We have Matt from Brookline, Massachusetts, and David from England. Welcome. And Ethan Starr, so glad to see you from Washington, D.C. Anna from Brussels. So nice. We're honored you're with us. We have Judith from North Las Vegas, Nevada. So glad that you're here. Okay, we have Sylvia from England, Peter from Penfield, New York, and Elfran from Israel. So and Francis from Renata, and from Toronto. We have so many people from around the world. We're so glad that you're with us. My name is Avram Grohl, and I'm a VP at the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust, and oversee Jewish Gen, the global home for Jewish genealogy. I'm very glad to welcome you to today's Jewish Gen Talk with Gary Regev and Karen Franklin, who will give us an update on how to utilize the many, many resources that are online from IGRA and other sources to help you research your Israeli roots. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. This session will be recorded. Thank you, Gary, for allowing us to do so. So if you want to take notes, you're welcome to, and you can also watch the recording afterwards. If you have any questions, Gary and Karen will answer them at the end. Please put them in the Q&A section, not in the chat. It will be very difficult to go through the chat for questions and answers. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague Karen Franklin, who will introduce more about the talk and introduce Gary. And thank you all for being here.
Thank you, boss. It's a pleasure to sit here with my colleague, Avrami Grohl, and a special pleasure to be introducing Gary Regev, my partner in crime for many, many years. Our husbands are colleagues as rabbis, and our sons are colleagues as rabbis. So we share a great deal. Gary has, you've all read, of course, in great detail, her bio. She's lived in Israel since 1978. She's taught widely in the genealogy world. She is a past president and major force in IGRA, the Israel Genealogy Research Association, volunteers. I just call Gary, in addition to being my friend, a serial volunteer. Her leadership is legendary. And I wrote in my notes here, she's indefatigable, which has nothing to do with her weight. It has to do with her perseverance. We all know that IGRA is more than just a genealogy society. It is a generator and aggregator of data. Its members run the gamut in backgrounds and expertise. And of course, now more than ever, the society and the country face untold and unexpected challenges to daily life, and that also affects the work, the genealogy work that they do and the research, and I know Gary will be talking about that. What many of you may not know about IGRA is that it is also a behind-the-scenes pump and lively group fueling nominations for IHAGS awards. Sorry if I let the cat out of the bag, Gary. And passionate also in recognizing their own volunteers. The lecture today will include not just a description of resources, but also Gary will provide techniques and procedures for how to best use these resources, and some of this is not so intuitive. My role is to bust in periodically and annoy her. And along those lines, when we were thinking about titles for this, we thought, or I thought actually, about fibs, files, and folders, or scams, scams, and scandals. But then I realized this was not a political talk. This was actually about genealogy, so we put those aside. That all being said, for those of you who may have missed anything, you can get a copy of the talk on Signal tomorrow. Okay, so Gary, I turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this experience today and to sharing with you some tips of how to get along with the websites and to be able to make use of all of the resources that are out there. I do have a short presentation, and then I'm going to move into a different mode. So you'll excuse me as I make the change from one to the other. And I will show you live how to do these searches on the IGRA website or on the different websites that are dealing with Israel. So, didn't do what I wanted. One moment, please. Okay, can everyone see this all right? So this is an Israel records update. And I want to remind everyone that when you're looking for records in Israel, you need to remember that there is a 70-year limitation for identity protection. And so not all of the records that you might want are available anywhere to anyone because of the blackout on the vital records. The IGRA databases in that vein have gone ahead and blocked out the ID numbers and other sensitive information so that you can see the records, but you won't see those particular items. We do need to find alternative records in order to fill out our family story. There are now several archives that have their catalog that is searchable. Using old newspapers as a resource is really much simpler than it was in the past. And there are multiple ways to run into the information. There are several websites that now point to IGRA and the IGRA records themselves, and we'll see how that actually works. I would say that IGRA has over 3,400,000 records in its collection. If you check us later on tonight or tomorrow, we're going to switch one of those numbers and it'll show 3,500,000 records. Thanks to Rosie Feldman and Daniel Horowitz. The new database additions are going to be people who made Aliyah in 1973, the 1950 voter registration in Jerusalem, the last part of that, the Notrim, which was a police force in the mandate period. It's the first part of surnames that begin with the letter Bet, and recipients of flour for matzot, very appropriate, in Jerusalem in the Sfaradim for the years that are here, 1891, 1904, 1915, and 1929. I call the IGRA collection the tip of the iceberg. We've gone to many, many archives and gathered information. We don't have all of the information from any of the archives, but what we are doing is to let you see at the bottom of each record where it is from. And if you find a record from one of the city archives, you should be in touch with that archive and see if there is more information about your relatives there. If you are you can see in each of these where it's the City Archive of Haifa or the Israel State Archive, the Petach Tikva Archive, and there is a link. The link will take you, perhaps, if it's as up-to-date as it should be, to the archive, and then you have to try to find your way through and get to the important resources. It won't take you directly to the records. There are many archives with material online. These are some of them. Of course, there's also all of the municipal archives. One of the archives that we are going to visit today is the Israel State Archives. There was recently on the Jewish Gen Digest, you may have heard of it, a flurry of activity saying the State Archives has published the name changes and go to the State Archives. So I'll show you what that means exactly. And you can see the other kinds of information that they have available. A lot of it is not dealing directly with genealogy, but rather transcripts of different foreign affairs, of the Yom Kippur War, all kinds of other things that have been allowed now to come to the public. Second archive we're going to look at today is the Historical Jewish Press, which is a partnership between the National Library of Israel and Tel Aviv University. And we're going to see how we can go ahead and make use of that. Many people have written in and asked how they can get a death certificate. And I wanted just to show you what it means in Israel to have a death certificate. The forms come out from the Ministry of Interior, and they don't have a whole lot of information. In some cases, the areas that are blacked out are the ID number. You need to be a relative that can document how you are connected to the individual in order to even make a request. If you have the Tudat Zehut number, that identity number, that makes it even easier. Sometimes it gives you the name of the father. In this case, in the blue, it gives the family name, the first name, and the name of the father. It tells you where he was living at the end, and the comment at the bottom here, Niftal, that he passed away in July of 2004. No cause of death, no other information available. On this form, it's telling us not only the father's name, but the mother's name as well. It gives us the birth date, both in the Hebrew date and the Gregorian date. Tells us that he was married and male, he was Jewish, and the date of death, both in Hebrew and in English, and the place that he was living. A fairly new phenomenon with records in Israel. Jewish Gen now points to IGRA. So if you're looking for records and you go into the general search, you receive a whole list of matches. And when you scroll down, you will see that there are matches. I put in the name Aaron Goldman. That's going to be my name of focus today. Nobody that I know, I made it up. I found it in a lot of different places. And for the name Aaron Goldman, there were 3,737 matches. When I scroll down, and I didn't show you obviously the entire list, but after Germany and Hungary, it's according to the alphabet, we come to Israel. And if you are looking for that name, there are records on IGRA. So there it shows our 6 records. And when you click on that, it takes you immediately on a very, very short flight to Israel. If you are already registered on the IGRA website, which is free, it will not show you this message. Well, actually it will, because this is if you want to see the details. So everybody who is registered on the website, or you have this link to come in from JewishGen, you will see that each of these different records that are available. You can look at the years, you can see whether that fits the time period for your relative. You will know if you see this icon of a page that we do have a scan that's available. Each of these are from different places. This one's from Tel Aviv. This one is a student in matriculating in the early statehood. No, actually before the end of the mandate. Here's someone else, marriages and divorces in Jerusalem. And here's a name change. But in order to see the pages, you have to click on details. If you are not an IGRA member, which is $45 a year or 150 shekels, depending on where you live, you won't be able to see further details. You can see, if you click on the eye or hover over it, it will give you a description of this particular database and tell you what is included. We'll see that when we go live. But I wanted you to see that anyone who is searching will get these basic details. You'll be able to know more or less if this is the person you are looking for. And then you can decide whether you want to come in and pay and become a member and a supporter of IGRA. And with that, I am now going to stop my share. I'll wave to you all as I go ahead and come back in and go to my screen. So the first place that I wanted to show you, everyone can see me okay, is the Israel State Archives. And try as I might, I'll show you. If I go and want to do it in English, I'm going to get a 404 message saying you can't do that. See? Can't do it. So what do? I go back and I see that this page is all in Hebrew and I don't understand the thing. So if you take your mouse and you click on the right-hand side, if you're using Chrome, it goes down and it says translate to English. And presto bango, I have the page in English. So they say that they have a website for searching and viewing the archive collection, and there is additional services to search the contents of documents that are in certain selected collections. And there is a contact form. So let's go and see what we can get by looking at these documents. Of course, it did not continue to be in English. So here's a short introduction, and then I have a list of the available files. So again, I'm going to right-click, go to Translate in English, and now I have it all in English. Okay, we're looking for name changes. So if you see it, let me know. We go through and we see all the different things. There's naturalizations, there's marriage certificates, there's lists of immigrants, a list of alumni in the Knesset, and government data, Ethiopians, things about Golda Meir, but I don't see any name changes. That's because it's hiding. It's in the official gazette of the mandate government. So the records that we are talking about are 1921 to 1948. If you're looking for name changes that happened after 1948, this is not going to help you. But let's click here. Now, once we click through, most of these are indeed in English. So you can get an idea of what they are. On the side here, it tells you in Hebrew that it's in English. Some of them are in Hebrew, though, but we're going to go ahead and use a different filter to sort what we want. And just to go with the sample that I had, I chose 1926. And I have now a variety of files that are available. And now what they bring you is a file folder. I kind of liken it to going into the archives in Salt Lake City, pulling out a microfilm, and then scrolling through. So this is the official government newspaper, government documents. It is listed here, everything that there is in the contents. And you can see everything that's there. And here, you don't have the possibility of changing it from Hebrew to English because it's a PDF. And that doesn't work as simply as what we had before. So what I wanted was September. So I see that I actually chose the wrong file for you. Let's try once more. Okay, so this one says that it is from August. They took these different newspapers and they bound them together, and they're available in some law libraries. They're available at the National Library, and you can pull them off the shelf and you can go through the pages, or now you can go through them here and you can check and see. So this is August 16th, 1926, and I'm going to scroll through because what I wanted is not available in August. I'm going to get to the next part, which is not very far away. And I'm going to keep scrolling, and here I go. This is September 1st. And I'm going to see whether we have here the name changes. And you keep scrolling and scrolling. These are licenses that were given during the month of July 1926 to doctors, pharmacists, dentists, midwives, to be able to participate in their profession. This is the license number, this is their name, and this is the city that they were living in. So there's all of these people, that's additional records that are in these official government newspaper. These are council offices that were being accepted. Remember, this is 1926. The government in some form was already active. Okay, now we come to September 16th. This is the one that I know that I need. And it says here, Shinui Shemot, name changes. And it's on page 480. So we can zoom to 480, that's 69. 77. These are more licenses And here is the list of name changes, people who changed their names. And so here we have the former name, we have what city they are currently living in, and the new name. So the person that I picked out was Aaron Goldman, and he changed his name. I think, if I read it correctly, that it had been Goldenman, and it was just a typo, and he wanted to make sure that it was changed and was listed correctly. So this is what it looks like. And they are not in alphabetical order. And so it is not easy to just scroll through and find the one that you are looking for. And this is the way it looks. And so here's our Goldman Aaron, and he was living in Tel Aviv. He changed it to Goldman Aaron. So when they talk about the fact that the name changes are available, it is kind of a misnomer. Yes, they are available, but anyone who wants to find it needs to be able to identify the correct file to look at, find the specific line that talks about name changes, and they sometimes have different descriptive words about those name change files, find the appropriate page, and go and scroll down. We'll see an easier way to get to this information as we move along. So I hope that I have given you an insight as to the files available and how to make the most of the Israel State Archives website. Your best friend is the right click and to translate. The next place that I would like to take you to today is the Jewish Historical Press, which is a partnership together with the Tel Aviv University. They have millions of pages that have been transcribed, that have been that are in OCR actually, and you're able to view them. They represent over 240 years of newspapers, and they appear in 25 languages. When you click through to go ahead and browse, you're going to find a lot of information available. So here I clicked already, show only accessible titles. And that's my first suggestion to you. When you go into the page, it gives you a lot of things. It shows you that some things are locked. I go and I click to show only accessible titles. The next thing for myself, I go ahead and say that I actually only want things that are in English. And today, for the purposes of what we are doing, I want to limit the years of publication. I want to go down to, 1927, say, and I'm going to go up from 1783, and we'll go up to 1910. As we do it, it brings us a smaller amount of publications that are appropriate. So now I know that I'm seeing English language newspapers that are from 1910 to 1927, and these are the titles that are available. There are ones from Australia, from Canada, from the United States, Zimbabwe, all the places that were dealing with English. We also have Mandatory Palestine, the Middle East. It's from the Palestine Bulletin. And this is the one that I would like to show you. So they need to verify that we're a human. I think I am. Okay. So I know that I want to go to 1926. And let's say I want to go to July. Oh, I wanted 1928. Okay. Now it shows me the different dates that the newspaper was published during that month. So there were some days, even in the middle of weeks, that it was not published, but we do see the other issues where it is published. Okay. And then I can click in and I can go and I can see the newspaper. And I see the news of the day. And I can click here and I can enlarge it. The tools on the side allow me to enlarge so that it's actually readable. And I can go through and I can see what is happening, Jewish National and University Library in Jerusalem. If you were to add in a name and to look specifically for that person, you would be able, it would highlight that specific person. Or you can go through and you can see what are the news of the day, and it's frightening to see how similar the topics then are to what's happening now. But you can go through and you can see things that are close to the time of the Holocaust and what was happening in different communities throughout the world. You can see what kinds of things were being advertised. You can see, if I click here, it highlights it, and then you can read it much easier. So there are lots and lots of things. There is also the Palestine from day to day. And they tell you exactly what was happening and things that were important. There were people who were committing suicide. There was a concert of the string orchestra. And so you can see many of the different kinds of items that are here that list people who were involved at the time. And so you really are able to find a lot of information about your relatives. And here, for instance, the white star and the red star lines that were going from France to New York and to Canada. They give you the dates that they were sailing and the name of the ship that was sailing. Lots and lots of information that can help you get information about your family and how they lived and what they were involved in. My heritage is next up on my list. And my heritage is mostly a subscription-based website. However, there is information that is available free of charge, and you should be able to take advantage of it. The information on the ship lists is free of charge. If I were to go back, oh, no, not there at all. And I go to research. Aaron, I don't want to have it match the name exactly because there may be variations. And I'm going to say Israel as the place, and I'm going to do a search. And for our purposes today, I want to go to immigration and travel. And I want to go to not the citizen and passport, but to immigration records, immigrant, and to the Israel immigration lists. And then we see that these are free. So going in and doing the search is not a problem. Getting to these specific lists is also not a problem. This is free. It gives you the birth around 1914 for this person. Their former residence was in Poland, the date of arrival, and the ship they came in on. So this is not any problem to locate what you are looking for. And you can go in, you can view the record. It will show you the transcription of the information. And if you wanted to try my translate in English, it works. So you can see that if the information is in Hebrew, you can translate it with a right click, or you can copy it and paste it into a Google Translate, and that will give you about the same thing. So here we have Aaron with a birth year around 1880. He was coming in at age 52 to Haifa in 1932. There was a relative who immigrated to Israel together. Okay, now we go down to see the document itself. And here, if I open it up, and then I can enlarge the page with my mouse scroll, I can see the information here, but also look at the top. It's kind of like what we found at the state archives. It is a PDF file. MyHeritage has gone through and pinpointed for you the exact page. If you were to go ahead and look further, here we have March 18th of 1932. And if I click on the next page, it's that same ship. And we can go ahead and see further. There are more ships and more information. This is that same ship. There's a lot of pages in the ship list. So there were several pages of that ship list, and the one that we wanted with the person that we were earmarking was before. Now, what's the information that's available? They have the last name, the first name, the age of the person, and then there is what kind of visa they had, as it were, to be able to come into Israel. And these all seem to be similar. Many instances I've asked in a lot of places, and if there are other letters or numbers that are used as far as admitting people, it's not as clear what those all meant. I've been told that it depended on the ship, it depended on the year, it depended on a lot of things, and that it doesn't actually give you any additional information. So the ship lists are available for free by accessing through MyHeritage. Another part of the searches that you can do on MyHeritage is, for instance, through billion graves for burials. So this same person, or the same name, billion graves searches are free on MyHeritage. I went through birth, marriage, and death, and then to death, burial, and cemetery and obituaries. And from there, I picked out billion graves. Now, because I put in Aaron Goldman in 1878 as my search, these are the items that came up. And it tells me that I can view the record. When I view the record, it tells me in which cemetery he's buried, and it tells me the date of his death. I then have multiple pictures of the tombstone where I can see who else is, what pictures were taken and who is next to him in this case. This is a different person who was buried. Now, they tell me if I want to find a full record, I can click there and get to Billion Graves. So I clicked through already and I got to Billion Graves. And this is an Aaron Goldman that is buried in the Trumpeldor Cemetery. And it gives you where the Trumpeldor Cemetery is. And it kind of pinpoints by GPS where the tomb is located, but it's not as easy as what one might want to see. There's an additional picture of the tombstone and showing the bottom of it as well. So there are ways to access these tombstones and information about cemeteries in Israel by going to the MyHeritage website. This is a different person. And it gives the inscriptions at the bottom as well. Some people in Israel also mention on the tombstones their relatives who perished in the Holocaust as a way to have a physical remembrance of them. Billion Graves set out on a mission together with MyHeritage to document all of the cemeteries in Israel. And this was done 10 years ago. A lot of us went around from one cemetery to another, documenting the tombstones. In the ensuing 10 years, they have not been updated, but anyone who died before 2015, the chances are very good that those tombstones will be documented on Billion Graves and available through MyHeritage. There's one other set of records, which is the mandatory Palestine naturalization applications. At one point, a few years ago, the Israel State Archives turned to IGRA and asked us to identify the people listed in the marriage and divorce certificates that were issued during the mandate period. We were happy to do so, and IGRA now has those marriage and divorce certificates available on our website. They are indexed. You can access them if you are a member of IGRA, of course. The naturalization applications for these 10 years went to MyHeritage to digitize and to index them. Again, we have here a long document. It's 32 pages for this particular person. And if I go back to the first page, it opened on a specific page. I want to take it back. Why am I not able to do that? Great, perfect. Here we have Aaron Goldman, and it shows me that there is a picture of him that is available, and I can go in to this file. This one is 16 pages long, and if I click here, it's going to open the file up. I can enlarge it, and I will see information that was given about this individual and where he was living, his birthplace, the date of birth, the fact that he was widowed, his nationality, he was a peddler. Of course, when you want it to work, it doesn't. Okay. So it did have his picture as well. Let's go and do a live search and try it again. So let's go back here. And instead of the immigration lists, I'm going to go back to immigration and travel. And I want to go now to the naturalization and to the mandatory Palestine applications. Now here it lets you know if it's the person himself or if he is a supporter. People later came in and they were supporters of others who were coming in and making Aliyah. So let's take this one, view the record. Oh, it's the same guy. Let's see if it works now. Open the page. Ah, okay. Page 1. So here's the file. And I can see more of the pages and how that file actually looks. We can see that this particular one suffered some damage. This man originally was making his aliyah together with his wife. She passed away, and they had all kinds of information about what happened and what to do now that she's not there and he's a widow. His pictures here tells you what the information is of when he came in, when he was making aliyah, when he was becoming a citizen. Again, his birthday and his occupation. Other information that is available in that particular file. This is something you could send to ViewMate or ask on Facebook for someone to translate for you. Here's additional information. So for the people who are lucky enough to find someone in their family who did make Aliyah and their papers were in this collection between 1937 and 1947, you could go through the Israel State Archives and go to their naturalizations, and you could then scroll through and see if you can find that particular person. Or you may want to pay for a subscription of one sort or another to MyHeritage that would enable you to see this information. This particular set of data is not available for free. And now with a drum roll, we are going to go to IGRA. Karen, do we have any questions? Anything that we need to do before I jump into IGRA?
I think we're good for the moment. We'll have just a few questions at the end, I think. So do you want to go through quickly if you can so that we get time for the questions? That would be wonderful.
Sure. Okay. IGRA, our website, has lots and lots of information available, our databases, but don't avoid the resources. We have many resource guides, including one on Israel that is well worth your time to check and see what is available for you in your research. Our databases, if you search the database, we come up with our form, and you can do the searches either in English or in Hebrew. We have a virtual keyboard here that will help you if you don't have a keyboard that was able to type Hebrew and you have the Hebrew letters that you want to use. We have a search box here which will show you all the filters that we're using. So we were doing the name of Goldman, and we wanted Aaron. And I'm going to click and do a search. I can use phonetic matches, which we are recommending. Don't put in both Hebrew and English in the same search. And now we see that the last name and the first name have gone into the box here telling me which filters I am currently using. And now we look down and we see what filters are available. There are 99 records for the name Aaron Goldman, and they go from census and registry records, donations, education, different elections, immigration, military, name changes, occupation, sports, different vital records, birth, marriage, and death, and something to do with a Brit. So if I didn't want to do searches by a record type, I could go down and I could look by a different locality. I could search by countries or a specific year. I could look at specific record sources or repositories or the databases themselves. And you can do that for any name, but you have to search with a name. Searching without a name doesn't happen. So let's say we wanted to go to those names, the name changes that we had at the Israel State Archives. And here I click on name changes and it comes up with one. And I now go to 1926 and I want to see the details. And I can see that this is a different format than what we had before. IGRA has taken and made this information available, and you can see the transcript of the information. So we're going to find this is the Godelman that we were looking at before. And I'm going to look down here and find where he is. Okay, so here's Aaron Godelman. He was living in Tel Aviv and he changed his name to Aaron Goldman. So the previous name is in the parenthesis. The new name is what we see here, totally available. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, this record, the information at the bottom, the record comes from the Palestine Gazette, from the name changes. And this, they give you the page and it tells you the number for IGRA that when we put it in. And these original records that we got were from work that Gary Makatoff did through Avotenu. And this record was added in 2015. So we do have this information available. The State Archives has both the Hebrew version and the English version. This is the English version. What we saw earlier was the Hebrew version. And you can see the information that is available here. This was, again, we looked at September 16th, 1926. So we could have looked for the page available in the English version, but you need to know how to look and find it. So that is the work. Now here at the bottom of the page, you could download this image, save it to your computer, and you could share it on social media. If I wanted now to go and look at some other document that's related to this person, I'm going to take away that name changes and I want to see what's available as far as birth, marriage, and death. So here I have a document, and I can see that there are variations on the way the name is spelled. Sometimes Aaron is spelled differently. It depends on how it was in the document. So it's not that it's a mistake, it's the way it was written in the document. And we need to, so you have Aaron this way, Aaron that way, and Aaron that way. So if I look here, I can see one type of a record. This is from Petach Tikva. This is a marriage and divorce list. Here I can see a different record. I can see who the parents are, and that Aaron is the husband of Nellie. And here's the other information that is available. Let's see that the right click does not work here. You can copy and paste into Google search. And here is the marriage certificate. And it gives us the information on the husband, the wife, their ages, what their profession is, whether they are Jewish or not, where they were living, names of the parents, professions of the parents if it's available, and the information about the witnesses. Some of the records are typed, some of them are in handwriting, and we have done as much as we can to make these documents available to you. Okay, Karen, tell me what else I can help people with.
Well, I thank you, Gary. We're close to the end of the official time that we usually have, but you are welcome to stay on because there are a number of important questions that have been asked. And Gary, thank you. I mean, this is amazing. I'm embarrassed to say how much I learned from your talk and how much I will be using and how quickly I will be going on to the IGWA website as soon as this talk is over. And for anyone who might have to leave, just to tell you that this has been recorded and it should be available on the Jewish Gen YouTube channel within a few days, and hopefully you'll receive some sort of a message about that. Gary, do you want to stop screen sharing? Maybe be a little easier. I'm not sure for people to see, but anyway, we thank you all and encourage you to come to future talks, which will be advertised, of course, on Jewish Gen. I have to say, Gary, that for me, one of the more important things that you said echoed something I had just been speaking about recently, which is the importance of pestering archivists. And I hate to say that as an archivist, but in the post-COVID period, there's been a great deal of turnover in archives. And just even if you get a no, we don't have anything answer from archivists with whom you deal in archives and libraries, how important it is to be specific in questions and make sure that a young or new archivist who doesn't know all of the records looks for you and assists you properly. Did you want to say anything about that?
No, I just know that with the small amount of records that we've made available, we're trying to show people what's out there. And that if they find a record and they didn't know that their relatives were living in Petach Tikva in 1936, and they see one record that relates to their relative, they shouldn't be embarrassed to go ahead and turn to that archive and see, I know that my relative was there in 1936, and do you have other information about him? And they very likely might.
Yeah, it's a great point. Just in noting myself, in going through the name changes, the extraordinary amount of effort that people need to have to look through the stuff, the old-fashioned hunting that we've forgotten how to do because everything's on MyHeritage and Ancestry and so on and so forth. And certainly worth the while if you find a new branch of your family that had changed their name in Israel.
So there's one thing that I did want to say about those name changes is that not everybody did it. There are lots of people who did not go the official route and did not go and have their names officially changed, and they just adopted a different name and went by it, and that was how they were known. And so some people may be disappointed by not being able to find that official record, and even if you find it, there is no method to have it get an official stamp of any kind. IGRA doesn't have that ability, and it's not like you can go into the offices of the local government and have them put a a special stamp on it that would make it an official thing, saying that they're relative. You just have to know that it's from the official newspaper and be able to go from there.
Yeah, and there was a question that came up on the questions and answers, which is where you should put your question and answers, about New York and records of name changes in New York. And they did have an official name change, but again, not everyone did it officially. They just changed their names. And also in New York, and I would be curious in Israel, you have people who, I found people who on the tombstone is the old name and in their death certificate is the new name. So it's not as if once they changed their name, it was exact and from there on in one way.
So I guess it was kind of a possibility of the Ministry of Interior knew them as one thing, and the family said, that's what they were known as in one place, but we want him to be known as Y as far as the tombstone is. So there's all kinds of different variations.
There you go. If someone does need assistance in looking for the name changes and it is in Hebrew, what might they do?
They need to either put it into Facebook and ask if there are different Jewish Facebook groups, and to ask if someone will be kind enough to give them the translation, and people are usually very, very good about doing that. They could put it into ViewMate, where people are very nice about doing that as well, through the JewishGen discussion group. They could write to IGRA.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell them to pray, but I guess that probably wouldn't be a good professional.
No.
Yeah. There was a question that came through about identifying people in photographs, and I don't want to ignore anyone's question, but if there are general questions, what one can do, similar to asking assistance in translation, would be simply to put it on the Jewish Gen discussion group and ask for assistance or direction, especially if it's not related to this. People are really, really friendly and helpful and can.
Again, Facebook pages that deal with Jewish genealogy. There are people who are able to make give some assistance in that.
Right. Okay, so Hannah had a question about an official marriage certificate for her parents. She apparently had an incomplete number and didn't know where to find it. Do you have any idea what she's talking about? Incomplete number? If people
don't, but if it's available, again, these certificates that we have, we don't have the complete collection online yet, and I don't know if that will ever happen, because there were a lot of them, and because they were copies that were sent to the archives, to the officials, and we're talking about the time period up to 1947, 48. Not every community gave over the collections that they had. So you either are able to find it through the Israel State Archives, just as we said about scrolling through, you might be able to find it that way, or through IGRA in the collections that we have, and we'll have more coming out, and when that happens, it may show up, or to go to the specific community and say, I know my grandparents were married in such and such a year. Do you happen to have the marriage certificate?
Along with that specific question, there was one, how to access police records from a mandate period and documents from the chief rabbi of Jerusalem, 1900 to 1930. Not to ask a specific question, but
not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those kinds of that information is not readily available.
Yeah, I think I've asked most of the questions that were sent in, and let me see if any more came through. Let's see. There's a rather complicated one that just came in. Might I suggest that additional questions to Gary So my normal joke, as you all who watch on a regular basis know, if you have any questions that we can be helpful with, please ask Gary directly, or put on the discussion group, and some expert will be happy to help you answer those questions. I think that's what's so wonderful about the Jewish Gen community in general, and so exemplary for IGRA, which as an organization, and you, Gary, personally have been so wonderful in offering your assistance to us all.
You want to
And-
give a plug for the museum? That
Ah.
the IGRA databases are available there?
Well, yes, the databases are available here. We have newspaper databases also at the Calico Center at the Museum of Jewish Heritage, which is through Jewish Gen. We do encourage you to write to us with questions as well, that we can be helpful to you with. The Calico Center at the museum is open during museum opening hours, and we would welcome you in person. I'm giving a talk, I believe, on April 6th or 7th, whatever the Monday is, about called Anne's Ancestry, which is the ancestry of Anne Frank, and some very important and new information that has come up about her ancestors of almost 1,000 years ago. So
I see a
yeah.
question just came in about
Oh.
Yad Vashem and not being able to see records in English. I don't know anything official about that. I would suggest trying that right click again, and there should be something, it maybe has moved or in a different place now on their forms, but you should be able to see that information. And again, you can take the Hebrew version and put it into those other websites, either on the digest in Jewish Gen, or to the Facebook pages, and ask for assistance.
Great. We thank you all and look forward to seeing you also next Wednesday at 2 o'clock. There is a program as well. I'm not quite sure offhand what the topic is, which I should know. Thank you all for attending, for joining us. Gary, thank you so much. And thanks to all your volunteers. It's really extraordinary what IGRA has put together, and we're all very grateful for it.
Thank you so much.
And I'm not exactly sure how to end this. This has never been my forte. I guess you just gotta
Go down to the bottom where it says
oh
leave,
yeah, right. Thank you
and
all.
it's just say bye.
Bye.